All right, let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles coming off of a Super Bowl victory. Of course, now after a Super Bowl victory, there's going to be some free agents that maybe you can't afford. Usually, the way the salary cap works, the good teams then have to make some tough decisions. That is the situation with the Philadelphia Eagles, is they had to make some tough decisions. So what ultimately did they decide to do, and how do we feel about the Eagles moving forward? Well, first we have to talk about how good were the Eagles last year? Obviously, best team in football, but where were they good at? Well, first, let's look at where PFF had each of their specific positional categories, and the stat that's going to make a lot of Eagles fans upset is passing, which was 21st. But I have to say, well, 21st seems harsh. Jalen Hurts did not have his best year this past season. Now, he really turned it on in the playoffs. In fact, using PFF grades, he was, I believe, the second highest graded quarterback, period, that played at least one playoff game last year. So that certainly helps. But ultimately, I don't know if he was great game in and game out, but he was great when he had to be. And it's worth mentioning, it's one of those weird situations where, because he missed some time, it's worse than it looks worse than it actually was. He was the 12th graded quarterback, but again, there was some backup quarterback play in there. That's why it goes down to 21st. But so, little better than that. Receiving was 9th best. Again, really kind of the strength of those top two guys, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, but also Dallas Goedert is factored in there. Offensive line was 6th and 5th best. Running was 9th best. That'll definitely upset Eagles fans that it was not first. Okay, listen, not my stats. It's PFF. Take it up with them. The defense, though, was incredible no matter what way you look at it. Second highest graded run defense, second highest graded pass rush, and first coverage. There were no issues with this Eagles team last year. There's nothing that sometimes the team wins a Super Bowl, like the Chiefs last year, 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. Then the offseason, we kind of said, okay, they need to improve on these things. They need to still improve their offensive line. They need to improve certain aspects. The Eagles don't have that. The Eagles, it's all about making sure you don't get worse. Unfortunately, that's not so easy to do. They lost a lot. This is the laundry list of players that they ultimately lost. A lot of these starters, even Darius Slay, starter for the for the Eagles, who was a good player for them last year. They ultimately had to let him go due to money. Josh Sweat and Milton Williams signed big deals, especially Milton Williams. He signed a massive deal with the Patriots. Those were great players, and those were great players in the Super Bowl. And Josh Sweat was an every snap player. Williams wasn't. And that makes you feel a little bit like, okay, there's not as many snaps you have to replace there. But Sweat was. Now, this is the good thing about the Eagles is the way that they kind of roster construct is they don't draft for need necessarily. So they do have other players they can kind of fall back on. You have Nolan Smith, you have Jalix Hunt. They still have Bryce Huff, who they signed, and that didn't fully work out as the edge. Then on the interior, you have Jalen Carter, who he's an every snap player. Jordan Davis, Moro Ojimo might take the Milton Williams role. So they should be okay there. So I don't know if it's as big of an issue as it would be for other teams, but still, those are players that were helpful. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, another guy who, didn't really fully understand that trade when it happened. They did save a little bit of money, but to be honest, there does seem to be a question mark at safety of who's going to be the other guy besides Reed Blankenship. I'm sure Eagles fans have an idea. Maybe that's someone that, hey, you can draft good safeties on day 2 of the draft. Wouldn't be shocked if they do that. Also, Brandon Graham, he just retired. So, okay, you're losing him. Mekhi Becton was a really good guard. And again, we'll get to their additions. They do have a potential replacement, but no guarantee that works out. Becton was very good last year. He was a nice piece for them. Then you have some players who are like, okay, these aren't the worst thing in the world, but they were players who helped. I mean, Oren Burks started the Super Bowl and was a good player when in the final couple of games when he got thrown in due to the Nakobe Dean injury. Again, he was a backup who played well in the playoff run. You're okay with going into the season with Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond. I think Eagles fans will take that, but ultimately just someone you have to throw on the list. Kenny Pickett, again, whatever, the backup quarterback, they'll be fine there. Avonte Maddox and Isaiah Rodgers, depth pieces, which, again, they lost kind of depth all across the board defensively. The starters for the defensive linemen, they lost, and now their depth pieces, which are really good, will have to be starters, and we'll see how that goes, which should be okay because they have good pieces there. But for the secondary, I'm a little bit more concerned. Again, they have guys. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean are already on the roster, and we'll talk about some of their additions as well. But ultimately, losing depth is concerning when it comes to secondaries, because if you lose one starter, it's such a weak link position. Teams can attack one area, so got to be careful there. Also have lost Kenneth Gainwell. They did extend a couple of players. Only one of these was a free agent upcoming. They did extend Lane Johnson and Saquon Barkley, which, hey, those are two good players. They want to keep those guys in the building as much as possible. Barkley also got a little bit of a pay boost as well. That'll get people to like you if they play for you, to see a guy who has the season Saquon had, kind of give him a raise. Players want to make sure they do what they can to show what they can do if you do that. Also, Zach Bond was an All-Pro last year. Kind of got to re-sign that guy, right? So good in the Fangio system. And again, I'm bringing up kind of all the losses. They have guys to replace essentially everyone that they lost, except for really one of the safeties. But here, if they lose Oren Burks and they lose Zach Bond, there isn't a great replacement there. So keeping one of them, and if you're going to keep one of them, why not the guy who was the best in the league last year? As for their additions, so a couple of question marks, and then a couple of ones that I really like, and then some that maybe could work out. We'll see. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I just don't understand at all. I don't understand why they got rid of Kenny Pickett for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I guess DTR is getting paid a little less. Maybe that's a thing, and ultimately he's going to be a quarterback 3, so who cares? But because I think they just like Tanner McKee enough to be quarterback 2. That has to be it, because I thought DTR was really rough when he had to play for the Browns. Hopefully for Eagles fans, he does not have to play in any meaningful games. You didn't have A.J. Dillon, who is kind of had a really weird career. I thought he was really good with the Green Bay Packers, coming off of a year where he didn't play in 2024, so that's why his value is low. But man, doesn't it just feel like with his physicality, that could be a great backup situation with how difficult it is to cover Saquon Barkley for a change of pace back who can just run you over. Not that Barkley can't run you over, but just, that just feels like kind of a great potential fit if it works out. You didn't have Harrison Bryant, the tight end, who, again, has had some better years. Currently going to be 27 next year, so still a young player. We'll see if you get anything out of him. Kenyon Green for a guard is really fascinating. So again, I brought up they lost Mekhi Becton. The way that their current offensive line is set up, you have Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson as the two tackles, probably the best tackle tandem in the league. I think it is. Landon Dickerson is one of the guards. He started was drafted as a center, or at least was center in college, played guard, played really well there. Cam Jorgens, a really good center. So they essentially need a guard to replace Mekhi Becton, and it's going to be either Kenyon Green or Matt Pryor. When they traded for Kenyon Green, I thought, okay, that's the plan. He's going to be their replacement for Mekhi Becton, and I was concerned because he's someone who was drafted in the first round by the Houston Texans and quite frankly just hasn't been good at the NFL level. He was PFF's 76th graded guard. That's out of 77 eligible guards. So he beat one guy, but that's not very good. They didn't sign Matt Pryor, who I think is a really solid guard. And if I'm viewing it this way, I almost feel like Kenyon Green is a potential reclamation project. Can we get the value out of him that we can? And if not, well, okay, we have Matt Pryor, who should be able to step in and be a good guard. Personally, I would have rather just gone with Matt Pryor. Now, he does have some injury history over his career, so maybe that's the concern as well. But ultimately, this offensive line shouldn't miss too much of a beat, in my opinion. They also just kind of took some flyers. So first for the edge rush position, getting Josh Uche, who over the course of his career has been a good pass rusher, but not much else. Hey, the Eagles love they love defensive linemen who can only do one thing. Like, that's kind of what they're almost built around, is something like that. I'm not sure what you're going to get out of Azeez Ojulari, but maybe they see something, or maybe it's just a depth signing. Could be that as well. Finally, Adoree Jackson, who I find to be a very interesting piece as well at the cornerback position. Someone who's kind of had trouble staying on the field, but when he's played has been very good. And again, I don't know if he's going to be the Darius Slay replacement, or if he might be, because you're looking at the list right now. Okay, maybe Kelly Ringo, they trust him outside, but I think they just want to have depth. They want to have options. Last year, when they added Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, they didn't expect those guys to both be great right away, but they said, well, let's just add enough talent here that hopefully something sticks. I think they're trying to do that again here. So ultimately, this still should be a pretty good roster. And despite the massive losses that they've had, really going through and looking at it, they kind of should be okay. I still want to see another safety. I think I still have a little bit of concerns now about losing Darius Slay personally, but the offensive line should be fine. Jalen Hurts and the receiving core is still just as good. Saquon Barkley will hopefully be just as good. The front seven, I think will maybe take a small step back, but honestly, it might not even take a step back because they have that much depth there. And they still have a whole draft, and the Eagles draft better than any other team in the league, it seems like, because they're very smart at that stuff. So ultimately, yeah, I think actually looking through this, I think the Eagles are fine. I think this is, the Eagles are a forward-thinking team, and I don't know if they're going to take as much of a step back as you would think, simply just looking at their losses. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on this offseason for the Eagles. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.